Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just allow me the latitude to acknowledge the presence of some of the secretaries of some of our constituency offices who are here today. We want to welcome you all. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this appropriations bill for the financial year ending March 2016. But Mr. Speaker, before I really get into my contribution, allow me to thank the people of Soufrière-Font-Saint-Jacques, because, Mr. Speaker, it has proven to be a very good choice that they made in 2011 when they did not vote for a particular candidate in spite of throwing almost $7 million just to enter the corridors of this building. And I am so happy when I see that he can only sit in the gallery. And should he ever decide to come back to Soufrière, the gallery shall be his permanent posture and place in this honorable house. Well, I am not too sure where he has gone to, but wherever he goes, there I shall be. Mr. Speaker, my contribution will take the form of just some brief preamble. I will do some rebuttal on some of the things that I heard. And then I will speak quite a bit about my ministry. I have 1 hour, Mr. Speaker, and then I will look at my constituency and try to address some of the programs and projects and initiatives to be undertaken in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Finance has presented a budget this year. And it's about 19 years, am I right? 19 years since he is in the politics of this country. 18 years. And I believe this budget is arguably the best that he has presented. The eloquence and the confidence he exhumed, Mr. Speaker. The hope that he gave the St. Lucian people is worthy of mention and worthy to note, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, given the economic situation and assessing what happened in the last financial year, and to tell us that we need to be optimistic is joy to my heart and should be excitement for the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, the policy articulations in that budget will do nothing else but to continue this country on a positive growth trend and to address the myriad of issues and problems that we have faced in our last 3 years. Mr. Speaker, the mental toughness and the bravery of this Prime Minister must be noted. Where all others feared and dreaded, he went. They were afraid of that. He went there. And today, we are realizing the benefits of that. And those of you who don't like VAT, make a categorical statement about VAT. What are you going to do with VAT? Stop playing on the minds of the people of St. Lucia about VAT. If you're going to remove it, say you're going to remove it. And don't pontificate and say VAT not good and another time it's good. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to take it out? Are you going to reduce it? If you take it out, how are you going to replace it? The money VAT is earning, how are you going to earn that money? Say that. And I expect to hear that That is what I expected to hear from those on the other side, but they did not. But I'm coming in now, Mr. Speaker. For that. Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you some of not only that, the reduction in the subsidy for which we have been criticized, issues with establishing the gas prices in St. Lucia, cutting expenditure across the board. These are not popular decisions, but they had to be made. And today we are realizing the benefits. We are seeing the forward movement, and I will show you the forward movement in the economy. Some people are blind to see it, but it's right in the very same document that they quoted from, and I'll show it to them. The benefits, Mr. Speaker, one, we are seeing a 45% reduction in our fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit reduced from $213.5 million in 2013-2014 to $138.8 million in 2014-2015. That is a significant achievement. The money we earn and the money we spend, we are seeing that the money we spend, when matched against the money we receive, that the gap between them is reducing in a favorable way. And that is significant. And that is what we have to tell the people of St. Lucia. And it's on that basis we are spreading the message of optimism. The current surplus of $43.1 million was recorded compared with a current account deficit of $0.7 million in 2014. That is significant. It's a positive trend. All revenue subcomponents expanded in 2014. Toute place qui a mené l'argent va venir en pays. Toutes ces places-là menaient plus l'argent en dedans pays. And there was an increase of 5.2%. Doesn't that warrant optimism? Mr. Speaker, VAT, the amount of money we made from VAT increased by 12.4%. $45.9 million. If we did not make that money, how would we pay teachers? How would we pay nurses? How would we pay bills for the different institutions? How would we help the poor people? Mr. Speaker, I mention these as examples to support the claim that this country is moving forward and that we have to be optimistic that the country is going to develop and we are going to reap the benefits of our hard work as a government. Mr. Speaker, I want quickly to look at or rebut some of the things I heard coming from the other side. Well, the member for Ancillary Countries said almost everything, but I heard there was one statement that was made by the member for Castries Southeast. And he's trying to portray the image as though this government has placed this country in reverse. And the member for Ancillary Countries eloquently explained it. But I want to dramatically express it. Mr. Speaker, this is what was happening to the country. Everything was falling apart. Unemployment, it was at 14.7, started dropping. Debt was increasing. Corruption all over the place. The country was going to the edge of a precipice. And I wish the leader of the opposition would momentarily look at the demonstration, if I may say so, Mr. Speaker. And so it was about to fall. It was going to fall. In come this government, put it in reverse. Turn it around, and now we're moving forward. That is what is happening. So when you claim we put the country in reverse, yes, we put it in reverse. We put it in reverse to change it, to change the course. to change the direction that the country was going. And that is happening, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they're talking about the license fees and the legal charge that we apply to it. Mr. Speaker, I just read on Facebook that a particular gentleman who seems to be the leader of a party in St. Lucia is going to have a march to mobilize the drivers to have them to protest against that initiative, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he cannot do it under the auspices of his party because his party has lost its soul. The party is a semblance of the party that is left. The party has even lost its color. Now they're going to orange. Mr. Speaker, these are the facts. If we have to take care of our people, we as a government must raise revenue. We must raise revenue. We're giving laptops. We're giving $500. We're giving disability grant. I'll come to that just now. We're giving concessions to all of the hotels. We're giving businesses concessions. We're looking after the elderly. I will come to that. We're taking care of children. We're giving farmers assistance. All of these things. How are we going to finance it? The drivers are very impatient when the roads are bad. They take banana trees and they put in the hole to make a statement. So all we are doing is to ask drivers to pay a little something to contribute to road rehabilitation and all the things I mentioned. That's all, you know. And you're going to demonstrate for that? You're going to demonstrate for that? And the leader of the opposition, I have a special section for her. I'll come for her just now. You are demonstrating for that? Mr. Speaker, listen to that. Listen to what happens. And I'm going to repeat what the member for Castro said yesterday. It's worth repeating. Let us compare. Right now, we are asking the proposed fee is $250. It was $150 for somebody who drives a vehicle like mine. I would pay $150, but now I will have to pay $250. Let's go to St. Vincent. Let us go to St. Vincent. If I go to St. Vincent, trucks and SUV, which is the category of vehicle I have, I would have to pay $532. The leader of the opposition has an SUV. If you were in St. Vincent, you would have to pay $542 EC dollars in St. Vincent, Mr. Speaker. In St. Lucia, we are only asking you to pay $200, and there's a problem with that. No, you see, if it is convenient for us to use statistics from St. Vincent and Grenada and Dominica, we have to use the scenarios that exist in all of these countries. Let us not be selective. We have to be selective. We cannot be selective on that. Remember like Ibabu Mati when Ibabu Mati when? Mr. Speaker, let's take a small truck. A small truck. You pay under 2 tons. 2 tons, but less than 3 tons. You pay $1,000 in St. Vincent. In St. Vincent. Here in St. Lucia, they're only asking you to pay, I think it's $500, a small truck, $550. Mr. Speaker, if you have a vehicle and a truck and it is over 5 tons in St. Vincent, you pay $1,380. compare it with what we pay in St. Lucia, which is just about, I think, $700. Can you see the comparison? And then what they do, Mr. Speaker, they look at St. Vincent and Grenada and they say they all have positive growth. Why are they having positive growth? The member for Castries is told you about the IMF policies that they had to be implemented in those countries. But more than that, the increases in the revenue that they collect. And that is one way of increasing the revenue. So drivers in this country must not be misled as though this government is so mischievous and that we want to prevent them from making a livelihood. All we are saying is that you want good roads, you want good sidewalk, you want proper bus terminal, contribute towards it. That's all we are saying. That's all we are saying. And so, if there is a demonstration, I'll join. In orange, yes. I have my placard. My placard won't say nothing about niggers. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank the minibus operators and all the drivers in this country. I want to thank them. Because, Mr. Speaker, they were due for an increase a long time ago. But they have worked with this government. They have been patient. And that is why they were given special concession under this arrangement. And I'm certainly sure some of them will be happy with the special concessions that they are going to get. Mr. Speaker, then the same minister from the member for Castries office, he mentioned about the Deville Bridge. He should never mention that, you know. He should be ashamed to mention it. There's a place in Suffolk called Deville. Hurricane Thomas washed away 2 bridges. Just before election, they decided to build a bridge. Mr. Speaker, as I said somewhere else, a shoemaker would do a better job than the engineer who started the bridge. They spent $186,000 putting a wall in a river. $186,000. And when the proper engineers went to the river to look at the design for the bridge, we had to remove the entire structure from the river and put a new structure. That is $186,000 that could have helped the children of Soufrière to go to school and help the people of Kwelas. You wasted that money by doing papi show for elections. That is what the member for Castries South. I don't know why the people of Castries South, what they see in this guy. Castries South East. Then my friend I have voted for twice to be president of the Principals Association. He is not there. But Mr. Speaker, after the member for Castries Central made a statement, I saw he moved with dispatch. Mr. Speaker, I don't know, but I want to tell him that I am up for adoption. So the largest, if he receives any, then he can take care of me because I'm nearing the poverty line. Mr. Speaker, he has been saying that over and over again, and I want to correct him once and for all. The whole idea of a sinking fund. Mr. Speaker, a sinking fund, you put money in a sinking fund or a reserve only if you make profit. It is from the profit that you make. You make your net profit, or surplus, as you call it now. Then you remove your tax. Then you send your amount to your respective reserves, and then the balance you share in as dividends. That's what I learned at school. It is a company, yes. It is called the appropriations account. You do that in the appropriations account. But if there is no surplus, what are you taking to put in the sinking fund? Are you going to borrow money to put in the sinking fund? That is the question I want to ask. I don't want him to say that again at all. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, he's talking about the debt. We're borrowing a lot of money, we're borrowing 6, and he adds up. What he has to understand, that the debt rolls over. The debt rolls over. The debt created or the debt undertaken by the previous administration now becomes our debt. And our debt today will become the next government's debt. That is why today, Mr. Speaker, we have a motion in the House to borrow $32 million to pay the debt of the previous government for an amount, for a project that was a waste of time. The Roebuck lands. Lands they contributed to a project, the project failed, the bank held the land, and the government has to reacquire the land by paying $32 million. And the advice I understood, former Prime Minister, probably you can tell me who gave you the advice to do that. Because I know you very well, you wouldn't do something as naive as that. And today, can you imagine what $32 million would do for us today? We are going to borrow money today. Nous allons prêter l'argent aujourd'hui à $42 millions pour payer le gouvernement avant, bailler une compagnie, un ministère qui dit au gouvernement, un ministère rouge. Avec terre, où était en la main, c'est mon pour nous joindre terre à vie, nous nous payons $42 millions. Aujourd'hui, nous allons prêter l'argent. 32 millions. Avec un Prime Minister. Si vous avez fait un mistake, ça, l'ouvrir Prime Minister, on a tout l'argent en contrôle. Qui s'aurait fait? Mr. Speaker, I also want to tell the member for Miku South, and the member and the leader of the opposition, all the countries that you mentioned, Antigua, St. Vincent, Jamaica, Dominica, Grenada, all of them had a prescription, and they filled it. You know who gave them the prescription? The IMF. You know that. So you know that. So why are you coming here and fooling the people of St. Lucia and making them believe things are so bad in St. Lucia? We have not introduced any IMF policy in St. Lucia. If we had to, the country would have been worse, because we would have had to send teachers home, send policemen home. There would be no schools would be no bursaries, there would be no contracts. Mr. Speaker, the rate of growth, I will speak to it just now. I don't think I'll finish the second section of my contribution, Mr. Speaker, but I want to take my time and do it. I now move to the contribution of the leader of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, I am disappointed, extremely disappointed, and I don't mince my words. You see, Mr. Speaker, when you go to a university and you achieve the highest accolade and you come back to your country, you're supposed to use that knowledge, the skills, the talent, the attitude that you develop to add value to existing knowledge in the country. That is what you do. But listening to the leader of the opposition, I swear it was an ordinary pedestrian walking the streets of some remote country, not the world. So I want to ask her, do you want to sabotage the government? Do you want, Mr. Speaker, does you want to sabotage the government and the country? Do you believe that we on this side, we benefit from the programs you put in place? Do we get money into our pockets? We're not like them. Some of them had nothing. There was one, he had a little shack. And today he has a mansion. What will the leader of the opposition have done differently? Tell me in a very succinct way, what would you do differently? Because all you do is criticize, like you have a degree to criticize. How would you provide for health care? How would you provide for school maintenance? How would you provide for road repairs? How would you provide, Mr. Speaker? How would she provide for salaries? Mr. Speaker, how would she provide for the social programs?
You're in the driver's seat.
What would you add? What would you subtract? Give me the calculus that you would use. Mr. Speaker, her contribution defied logic. She made no recommendations, gave no advice, and just talk to work on the emotions of St. Lucians as though this government is not doing anything worthy of praise. But the members, when they spoke, they told the people the truth. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition has a secretariat. She has a research officer, Mr. Speaker. I don't have one. She could use the research officer for her to verify and check the veracity of the things she comes to say here before she says them. Also, the pronouncements she makes on the radio, in talk shows, in interviews. Check to see whether these things are accurate. And the member for Grozile said it accurately. The things you say about your country can affect investment into the country. But I know. But apparently you have not known. So I'm telling you today. So you don't do it again. Mr. Speaker, she's only criticizing Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know what really hurt me? When she attacked a female parliamentarian colleague. How can you refer to the member for Babono as operating in the bush? Shameless. Mr. Where is the member? She's not there. Today I looked at her. She looked like a lioness. Her hair curled back, looking beautiful. And so if she is from the bush, she is a beautiful woman from the bush. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition was a consultant in the last administration. And not many of us know that. So when the members opposite were accusing this government of having so many consultants, she was a consultant earning $8,000 a month. That's more than my salary. And she was in charge of the CDP. Consultant for CDP. What happened to CDP? What happened to CDP? All the local government corruption that took place there took place under her consultancy. And today you want to tell me you want to take leadership. And today you want to tell me you want to take leadership position in this country? You have to demonstrate you have capacity and integrity to hold the mantle of responsibility for this country. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's look at economic growth. She says everything negative. Inflation going up, unemployment going up, everything is negative. But the very same economic review, you don't understand it with all your PhD. Let me make you understand it. Good. Economic growth last financial year was 1.9. Negative 1.9, sorry. Okay. Negative, that's right. It is this year. The year before it was negative 1.9. The last year, just past 2014, it was 0.7. Isn't there a positive shift from negative 1.7 to 0.7, negative 0.7? Isn't there a negative? If you owe somebody $1.90 2 years ago, and last year you owe the person 70 cents, haven't you moved forward? So in essence, there was a growth of 1.2, a positive movement of 1.2, but we are not where we are. We are not where we are. No, sorry, let me correct myself. We are not where we want to be, Mr. Speaker. We have a long way to go. And that is why we have to preach optimism. Because we are moving in the right direction, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I heard you talk about speculators. Well, absurdity. Speculators are closing down the shop because of that. The member of Grocery has already answered that question. Mr. Speaker, you know what I don't understand about the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker? She finds everything wrong about the government. She finds the government is doing everything wrong. In the same breath, she is asking for a health center. She is asking for jetty. She is asking for access center. If things are so bad in this country, why are you asking for anything? But you say things are bad. You told them things are bad. Mr. Speaker, I don't understand her logic. I don't know. I thought education was supposed to make people smart. It gets some people stupid. You didn't do that to me. I know for sure. Mr. Speaker, she spoke about inflow, and the member for Grocery talked about it. There is no direct investment. No direct investment means there are no inflows. We must have direct investment. Because when they come and invest, money comes into the country. I asked the question, what new investment took place in St. Lucia in the 5 years when you were part of the administration? Mr. Speaker, let me move on to my next folder. And Mr. Speaker, in order for this country to move forward, we need astute leadership. We need somebody who's firm, and we have that. The way you attacked the Prime Minister yesterday was vicious. And for as long as I stand as a member of a team he leads, I will stand up and defend him. And I don't do it alone. We do it together. Can't you see us? We're different from over there. We work together. We are united. When we finish, we come together, we speak. We go upstairs, we joke. When you finish, one go this way, one go that way. That is important. That collegiality, you need that. You need it if you are to have teamness and teamwork. And that is not existing on the other side. And the other side is not fit for running any country. They can even run them off. How can they run a country? Today, St. Lucia is respected, Mr. Speaker. St. Lucia is respected. That is why we can get help from Mexico, from Morocco, from Cuba, from Venezuela, from the Republic of China and Taiwan, from the EU, from Kuwait, from the World Bank, from CDB, from the Caribbean region. I've said Venezuela. That is why we can get help, because our integrity has been restored as a country. Because we have men who are not greedy men and women who are not greedy for their pockets, but greedy for the development of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just suspect, Mr. Speaker, that the members opposite, they cherish when something bad happens to St. Lucia so they can get a talking point. As though they are praying for suicide so that they can talk if the economy killed committed suicide. As though they are praying for anything bad, for a hurricane to wash away St. Lucia, for the economy to fail. We have a responsibility. We are politically different. We are at variance with each other politically. But we are all St. Lucians, you know. This is our country. And a Jamaican will not come and take care of St. Lucia for us. We have to get our act together. The challenges that we face, we have to put our heads together. And what I heard coming from the other side with no advice, I'm certainly sure the member for Castries North will give some advice. Last year I was not here, but I stayed at home and I listened to him, and I heard he gave advice. I didn't agree with everything he said, but at least he gave some advice and made some recommendations. If we cannot come together and put our minds together, we're all going to sink in it together. Don't believe when we sing it's Labour Party people alone that will sink, you know. All of us are going to sink. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. I see you have an ad, 4,000 jobs lost. An ad, 4,000, where were these jobs lost? Where? And yet still we're trying to create jobs for nice, you're criticizing it. Mr. Speaker, let me move. No, it's in the same folder. Mr. Speaker. No, don't leave that topic. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak about my ministry. Thank the Prime Minister immensely for giving me responsibility for an area that is very dear to my heart, and that is taking the needs of our vulnerable people, our poor people, and our indigents. I want to thank the staff, the permanent secretary of all of the agencies associated, because they have done a fantastic job in trying circumstances to provide and to assist our poor people in this country. You show me the way your poor people live in a country, and I'll tell you about the consciousness, the conscience of you as a government. And our poor people, we're doing our best with them, in spite of the tough times. And that is why we have to ask drivers to pay a little something extra, so we can take care of the poor people, take care of their grandparents who are at home with nobody, so that when they go and drive their buses. That is why we have to do it. And you're going to march against that? Mr. Speaker, these are some of our priorities, Mr. Speaker, of the ministry. One, we have started a program to reform the social safety net of this country. Central in that program is the creation of a target mechanism that will prevent inclusion and exclusion. Let me explain that. We have people in the country who need help, and the government provides the help. But we must ensure that the people who deserve the help are the ones who get the help. That's inclusion. And those who don't deserve the help do not get it. That's exclusion. How do we do it? We use so what you call the proxy ministers. So that when, and all of us must know that, because all of you do come to the ministry. You come, you say you have this person. We have an objective way of deciding whether or not this person will get into a program. So you give the person the test, how many stoves at your home, how many this, how many elderly, and then the person gets a score and the person will qualify. We are now finalizing that. The next thing we need to do is to create a database, because everything we have to do must be evidence-based. So we are, home visit, right. So what we do, we are going to take all of the information from everybody who applies, put it in a central database, create a central registry, so that the Ministry of Health can know who we give help. The Ministry of Education give books, so we can know who's getting books, because some people live for them alone. They will go to the Ministry of Health, get an allowance, go to the Ministry of Education, get an allowance, come to SSDF, get an allowance, come to the ministry and get another allowance, and go to NCF and get an allowance, and go to the parliamentary rep and then get another allowance. So we need to have that central registry, and that is what we are working on. It's nearing completion at this time. Mr. Speaker, the public assistance, what they call l'argent les pauvres. Mr. Speaker, we have increased it by 25%. So when we are talking about a little increase in bus drivers and a little 50 cents for Lucilec, this is what we do with the money. C'est grand moun nan qui pa ni personne pour garder pour yo. Yo pa ni moun Saint Croix, yo pa ni moun Dominique, yo pa ni moun pièce côté. Pour voir rien ba yo, Mr. Speaker. So yo ka dépend en le gouvernement. Tous les mois nous ka ba yo anti la vie. Avec ça nous ba yo 25% plus haut. Moi dou comme menacé temps. Mr. Speaker, Laissez moun sa mort, nous avons aussi assisté yo pour tirer yo. Ba yo 5 ba yo ba comme ça. En dernière année, nous avons assisté 224 moun burial assistance. That's what we did. With dignity, yes. Mr. Speaker, the after-school program is going to continue. I want to thank the St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association. Last year, when there was no allocation, they came in and they assisted us. And we were able to run the program in 8 schools, and about 700 students benefited. And this year, we're going to continue with Cicéron, Lamas, Monrepo, yes, Monrepo, Fonashaw, Monchi, Wilton Siad, Bois Patat, Sir Ira Simon Secondary School, Belle, yes, District 5, Grand Rivière, Dennery Village, Mikou, Angers, then Vieux-Fort South, Belleville, Vieux-Fort North, Garan, Font Saint-Jacques, Soufre, Jack Melrose, and Millet. All of these people will be back on the program. Mr. Fouacho is still there. I called it number 4. Fouacho is still there. So I must admit, Fouacho has a very good program. Very, very good program, yes. Fouacho, yeah, very good program. And I have to come. Mr. Speaker, the Boys Training Center, which is also part of the ministry. Mr. Speaker, let me just explain what happened recently. There was a young man who was assisting the police in a murder that took place on the chaussee. Based on the law, the magistrate sent the boy to be held in custody at the Boys Training Center. Because of the boy's record, the staff became uncomfortable with his presence on the compound. They withdrew their labor. However, through the efforts of the Attorney General's office and the ministry and the Minister for Home Affairs and my ministry were able to work it out very quickly in record time to use the legislation to create a juvenile detention facility at Bodile. And right now, that boy is at Bodile. And any other young man between above 14 and lower 16 who finds himself in problems with the law, young man or young woman, in problems with the law, they will not be held custody at the BTC, but they will be held at the correctional facility. Mr. Speaker, the situation at the Boys Training Center is deplorable, is dismal, but however, through the Juvenile Justice Reform Project, we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. This project is going to, among other things, have what we call a court diversion program. Instead of taking children to court all the time, let us do some counseling, let us do something else with them. And the core component of that project is to build a new facility somewhere in Peru. The land has been identified. We are in the process of acquiring the land. The consultations have started. 2 weeks ago, there was a consultation with stakeholders, and the Ministry of Physical Planning is looking at the land. The design has been done, and it's a matter of waiting for financing and to begin the project. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister, a Prime Minister who I can boast loves children and poor people. That is why he gave school children laptops and gave mothers $500. And elderly people gave them the home caregivers. But he said that was not enough. There are too many children in the society who are I don't want to say disabled, who are physically challenged or mentally challenged or challenged in some way or the other. And they are languishing at home with no help. And so he said, give each one of them in each home $200. And today, 140 young people below 21 are benefiting from that. We must increase it. We're going to increase it next year, because it does not only increase it, but also if we can widen the age, because there are many more persons below 25 and 21 who I want to thank Dr. Bird for assisting in identifying those persons who qualify for those programs. Under the Kudme system, Mr. Speaker, we gave housing assistance. We built 23 new houses. 23 new houses, yes. Vieux-Fort got, yes. Mr. Speaker, Vieux-Fort got, Mr. Speaker. We provide fire assistance. The Prime Minister has a fund for a distress fund that he uses, but we also do, we cannot give, and he has really been assisting, but we also give some assistance, immediate assistance. We will give some immediate assistance to fire victims, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, you have 15 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker, I just started. Oh my God. Mr. Speaker, we gave educational assistance, we give textbooks to 118 students, we gave uniforms to school children from poor families, 269 students, we pay school fees, 29 of them, we pay CXC for students who cannot pay for CXC, 19 of them, we gave vouchers, over 1,000 vouchers to around Christmas time. Around Christmas time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, every constituency got. Everybody, yes, honourable member for Castries North, you did get. Yes. SSDF, yes. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So we're not discriminating like you all gave me nothing in 5 years when I was parliamentary. And what is the Minister of Education took the educational assistance and gave it to the little red fella who wanted to run against me. Mr. Speaker, under the BNTF 7, there are a number of projects I want to run through very quickly. Judge Charles Boulevard Sanitation Facility, that will be done. Okay. That will be done, honourable member. The Wavin Personal Public Facility, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say something about that facility, but I'll say it in a different place. The Columbet Bouton water upgrade, the extension water mains at Pero and at Lacwa Mengo. The Monshi to Labon water upgrade will take place under this program. Access and drainage, the Black Stars Mondidon discharge drainage project, that is going to be under BNTF 7. Focaco, the farm access road at Focaco earlier mentioned, that is going to be part financed by under this program. Bacadere main drain, Vieux-Fort, Bacadere. Font Saint-Jacques multipurpose structural drainage. Bacadere main drain, that will be done under the BNTF program. That is going to be done. I can give you everything. I can give you the details. Retaining walls measuring 182.7 meters by 18.3 meters. And a large concrete block drains measuring 152.39 meters by 46 meters. Soufrière access improvement. Oleon and Newfield footpaths and drains. Goodlands East access road. Walcott's Performance Center and a Grass Street extension. For education. Rehabilitation and upgrading of early childhood education centers. We want to bring back the roving care program. We want to train some beekeepers in Belmont and craft workers and skilled craft workers. We want to train at least 50 handcrafters. St. Joseph's Community Development Training Project, about 100 community members will benefit from that. St. Joseph, yes. Empowerment of southeastern residents through training in non-traditional areas. That is a special program, a TVET program for 225 persons of ages between 16 and 35. Mondidon. Well, with the configuration, you will find it. Mr. Speaker, although your colleague is challenged it in the court, he doesn't want it to happen. I don't know why. Mr. Speaker, in the area of local government, Mr. Speaker, we are transforming the system, but local government is going to be a very, very expensive initiative. We have to understand that. And so where are we right now? We are now writing the legislation. We got help from UN Women and UNICEF to pay drafters to write the legislation. We have looked at models. Cabinet has already adopted or endorsed a particular model. Mr. Speaker, before I end, I want to talk about cemeteries. Cemeteries in this country is a serious problem, Mr. Speaker. All our cemeteries are running out of space. Grosile is terrible, Mr. Speaker. I don't think Grosile has space to bury the dead for the end of the year. And so we must move quickly. We only have $200,000 allocated for that, Mr. Speaker. But I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let me tell you where we have identified. How do you call the place? Cajoli? Fayol in the Grosile, that is towards Casaba. 33 acres of land have been identified, air maps surveyed, and soil tests are now being done. Rivadore for the south of the island, and also Latuni from Invest St. Lucia to try to get a bigger parcel of land to extend the Viewfort Cemetery. That is also in progress, Mr. Speaker. Miku got an expansion in the cemetery earlier in our term. That Miku North, yes. So that people from Miku North can now use the Southern Cemetery, because it is not practical for us to put a cemetery in every constituency, in every community. So we centralize it. Mr. Speaker, I had a town hall meeting. Well, it was during our conference. I mentioned that the concept of inviting public partnership in the development of cemeteries. And no sooner I said so, I got 5 calls. St. Lucians who were interested. One person came to see me on Monday, interested in developing the cemetery. The idea is, if we have 43 acres, we give 20 acres to the developer, you develop it, we have agreement how much you give to government and so on, and then the other 20 acres will be left to take care of our poor and our elderly who will not be able to pay for the rates that they may charge. And that's what we are doing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am happy that the Soufrière Square, let me go back to my people now, Mr. Speaker, the Soufrière Square will be done. When this square is finished, Mr. Speaker, you people will have to pay a toll to come to Soufrière, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is a moment of levity. I'm not saying that seriously, because some people might just take it and go in the news and say people will pay toll. I'm just saying that, Mr. Speaker. I'm just saying that. Yes, yeah. Mr. Speaker, there is an area in Soufrière, Crestland. We have 14 houses there. But the consultants say, do not allow anybody to occupy, do not rent, do not give, do not sell, do not lease. So that after Thomas, so the houses are just there, and vagrants and all kinds, harboring all kinds of undesirable elements. And it's becoming a problem, Mr. Speaker. My secretary just gave me the folder because I was going to wrap. Mr. Speaker, the Soufrière playing field, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the biggest jazz event was not at Pigeon Island, but was in Soufrière, Mr. Speaker. The biggest football activity, Black Hat, was held in Soufrière, Mr. Speaker. But the playing field in Soufrière is not fenced. Mr. Speaker, do you know what we do? We take all bed sheets, all carpet, all anything, and we block the fence with it. That's what we do. But our creativity is running out. And we have targeted a better mechanism to do it. We need a wall, just like the Great Wall of Taipei that is in Viewfort. We need a wall. We need a wall around the Soufrière, Mr. Speaker. But we will start piece by piece, little by little. Mr. Speaker, during the campaign, I promised the people of Soufrière, the students of the Soufrière Comprehensive School, that we will do something to give them some protection. Because after school, the congregation of students walking down the road, and you have some mad drivers just driving down the road at speed. We need to create some protection for them. And so we have started piece by piece, small contract by small contract. We have done maybe about 600 meters. We just start. We are going to continue. As you go drive into Soufrière, you will see the sidewalk so that it will continue to go to the secondary school, Mr. Speaker. The people
Honourable
of
member,
Barons
you
Drive
have 5 minutes remaining.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I will, 5 minutes in metric would be equal to... Mr. Speaker, the people of Barons Drive, they must be happy today, Mr. Speaker, because you have elevated the living conditions. There's a wall on Asu Canal that we have to do for them before the rainy season because it was going to collapse. And these are people we have to take care of, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Mocha housing project, they're building 11 houses there, Mr. Speaker. It's ongoing. The only problem is that the people in the area are not getting jobs. It's not something I should say because my people from Soufrière, they do go out and work other places, but there's a lot of work ongoing there, and there are only 2 persons from Fonseca, and they are saying to me they're not getting jobs in contracts right in the area. Market Road, Mr. Speaker. Market Road. I mentioned the access center, Mr. Speaker, the Soufrière Old Trafford. When we came in office, there was a huge mound of dirt and stones and rubble right in the center of town. As soon as we came in office, we took this out. Right now, under BNTF, we're going to clear it off, build a drain, secure the outer perimeter of the field, and then concrete the level. And over time, Mr. Speaker, we're going to put our bus terminal, and we're going to remove the vendors who sell on the sidewalks right next to the gutter and place them there and create a hub just in that general area, Mr. Speaker. The people of Bhutan should be very happy. Mr. Honorable Member for Castries East, they asked me to thank you immensely, Mr. Speaker, because when I called on him, and they too wrote to him and asked him to do some potholing on the road. And with immediacy, he did so, and the people are very happy. I want to tell them that the Boca group that the member for Answer spoke about will be building a ring road passing through Bhutan, going to Belvedere, and that is going to happen sometime in the near future. Mr. Speaker, Mon Mini, Mr. Speaker, the former administration, I'm not too sure if the then Prime Minister knew about the mischief that they were doing. They built a wall, and because a lady is a supporter of the Labour Party, all of the water, they allowed the water to settle right in front of her home. And we had to go and remove that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Market Road, we are putting grills all around Soufrière. Esperance, we did a portion of the road. But the people are saying, Minister for Infrastructure, Honorable Member for Castries East, the Esperance Diamond Road is like this is the only thing that some people believe Soufrière needs at this point in time. If you don't do it, they're going to crucify. That's how they make it sound. That's how they make it sound. If you don't do that road, they're going to crucify you. But I know the situation. You have done whatever you could. You gave me 6 bridges. Today they call Soufrière Bridge Town. I'm very happy for these bridges. Mr. Speaker, our sports facilities are very good. Soufrière is the only constituency where there is night cricket. Wednesday night I was watching a cricket match there. Wednesday night, in 1 over, Zenon, first over, 40 runs. First, I wasn't playing. I wasn't. And so, Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue with through CDP with our projects. Mr. Speaker, even those who oppose the party, those who oppose me in Soufrière, will confess in a quiet way that things are happening in Soufrière. They will say it. But of course, you know how they behave. You heard them in the house. The same thing they do in the house is the same thing that the supporters do on the road, you know, because they follow their leader. Well, they have so many leaders. I'm not even too sure which one, or if they have at all. And so, Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue with our works program. Palmis just got a facelift. You know, I remember Member for Babondo has been telling me about Palmis and the drains and all. Well, we have repaired all of these, Mr. Speaker. She gave me encouragement and tried to do it, but the people have not gotten paid yet. That's the only problem, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our rivers need desilting, and I know there's a desilting program every year, and I know that the rivers will be desilted just before the commencement of the hurricane season. Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, Mr. Speaker, let me just say how happy I am this year. Last year, as I said, I was unable to be here. I want to thank the Lord for giving me the strength to be here this year. And I want to thank my colleagues. I want to thank the Prime Minister and other cabinet colleagues who have given me the encouragement. We need to work as a team. We need to work together. We on this side of the government, we are doing it. We have to continue doing it. The synergy is good. It's great. And it's reflected in our performance. It's reflected in people's perceptions of us. Members opposite, I ask them to gel with us. Come on board. Stop the criticisms. It doesn't make sense. If you are going to criticize, do it based on evidence and fact. Everything these days is evidence-based. Like the jetty in Monrepo. Mr. Speaker, in Parliament, I passed in Parliament the other day. I saw abutments built. 1 more minute?
Time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.